When you hold on too tightly to what was, you stop yourself from becoming what you can be. Life is movement, constant, unpredictable, alive. Yet the mind craves certainty, control and attachment. Letting go feels like losing, but in truth, it is the doorway to your own freedom. The pain you feel when you release something or someone is not the loss itself, it is the tearing away of the illusion that you ever possess anything permanent. To let go is not to give up, but to wake up. When you let go, you don't lose yourself, you lose only the layers of illusion that were never truly a part of your being. So much of what people call identity is built from fear, attachment and the need to belong. These layers wrap around the essence of who you are until you begin to mistake them for your truth. Letting go is not destruction, it is revelation. It tears down what is false so what is real can stand. The mind resists this process because it thrives on control, yet the soul knows that freedom is born only when there is nothing left to cling to. Clinging to what has already passed is like trying to breathe life into ashes. You cannot move forward while your hands are full of what no longer exists. Every memory, relationship or dream that has served its time must be released so that energy can flow again. People often confuse letting go with indifference, but it is the deepest act of love for oneself. To release the past is to honor its purpose and to trust the unfolding of what is next. The pain that comes with it is not a punishment. It is simply the stretching of the heart to make space for what is new. Strength does not come from holding on to what is breaking you, but from facing the truth that it is time to move on. Real courage lies in releasing, not resisting. The human mind fears emptiness, yet emptiness is where transformation begins. When you loosen your grip, you realize that nothing real is ever lost. Love remains, wisdom remains, essence remains. What fades away are only the shadows that disguise themselves as your truth. The moment you stop fighting the change, you begin to breathe freely again. Detachment is not coldness or distance, it is the balance of loving fully without losing your center. It means standing firm in your awareness while allowing life to move as it must. You stop demanding that people or situations fit your idea of how they should be. Instead, you begin to see everything as part of a greater rhythm. Surrender does not mean weakness, it means you trust that life knows more than your fear does. In that trust, you find unshakable peace that cannot be disturbed by loss or gain. Letting go without losing yourself is the highest form of awakening. It is realizing that what you are cannot be taken or destroyed. The world may change, relationships may fade, dreams may dissolve, but the core of you remains untouched. In that stillness, you discover a freedom that no attachment can ever give. To let go is not to drift away from life, but to merge with it completely, without resistance, without fear, and without pretending to control what was never yours to hold. Clinging to what is gone drains the very essence of your being. It traps your energy in the weight of what no longer exists and blinds you to what stands before you. When you hold on to memories that have already served their purpose, you create walls around your own growth. Life moves with or without your permission, and when you resist that flow, you suffer. The mind wants permanence, but everything in existence breathes in cycles. Beginnings and endings, arrivals and departures. To keep clinging is to fight against the rhythm of life itself, and no one wins against life's natural course. When you refuse to release, you carry the burden of what is already finished. Every thought, emotion and memory becomes a chain that holds you hostage to the past. You begin to relive moments that no longer belong to you, and your spirit weakens under the pressure of what cannot be changed. The longer you cling, the heavier it becomes. Energy that could have created new possibilities instead fuels old wounds. Letting go is not betrayal, it is a form of inner liberation. It allows you to breathe again and step into what is waiting beyond your pain. Release does not mean forgetting, it means accepting that something has reached its time. When you let it go, you honor what was instead of trying to recreate it. The past cannot be relived, but it can be respected for the lessons it gave. Growth demands space, and clinging fills that space with echoes of what once was. Only when you open your hands can life place something new within them. Letting go is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength, for it requires trust in what you cannot yet see. When you release what's gone, you allow life to move freely through you once more. Energy that was locked in grief, anger or resistance begins to circulate again. You start to feel alive, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer fighting the truth. This flow is the natural state of existence, unobstructed, vibrant and full of possibility. The heart knows how to heal when it is not suffocated by clinging. What you lose in the act of letting go is only what was never meant to stay. Freedom begins where attachment ends. When you stop forcing the past to remain, you make room for your own evolution. You cannot step into your next chapter while you are still reading the last one. Release is not an ending, but a transformation. Life rewards those who have the courage to move with it, not against it. The energy that once trapped you becomes the same force that lifts you higher. In letting go, you do not lose yourself, you finally meet the part of you that was never bound in the first place. Real strength does not lie in holding on to what is fading, it lives in the quiet courage to release what has reached its time. The human mind finds comfort in the familiar, even when the familiar brings pain. It clings to patterns, people and moments that no longer nourish the soul. But strength is not about endurance of what is breaking you. It is the willingness to face the truth that something once meaningful may no longer belong in your path. To release is to stand in the storm of emotion and choose peace over possession. It is the act of trusting that letting go does not diminish you, but refines you. When you release what no longer serves you, you reclaim your power. The things you cling to often control you more than you control them. Every attachment carries a weight, and every weight slows your growth. True strength is not the tightness of your grip, but the steadiness of your heart when you decide to open your hand. It takes immense inner power to walk away from something that feels familiar yet holds you captive. Letting go clears the space where new energy, new purpose and new life can enter. To release is not to forget or to erase, but to accept without bitterness. You acknowledge what it gave, what it taught, and then you let it rest. Strength is not found in denial, but in acceptance. The weak cling to illusions, the strong face reality with open eyes. You grow not by accumulating more, but by shedding what keeps your spirit heavy. When you release what no longer serves your growth, you align with life's natural flow, which always moves forward, never backward. There is a sacred power in surrender. It is not defeat, it is wisdom. When you stop forcing what is no longer meant for you, you allow a higher intelligence to guide your path. Life does not ask you to keep everything, it asks you to carry only what deepens your awareness. Those who dare to let go discover that nothing essential is ever truly lost. What remains is truth, strength and clarity. All that cannot be taken away. The act of releasing becomes the act of remembering who you are beneath all the noise. Growth demands emptiness before it can bring abundance. You cannot fill a vessel already overflowing with the past. The courage to release is the same courage that makes transformation possible. Real strength is not in resisting change, but in surrendering to it with an open heart. To let go is to trust that life knows more than your fears do. When you release what no longer serves you, you do not lose, you rise, purified by the fire of acceptance, standing unshaken in your own light. Attachment is born from fear, the deep fear of being empty, alone or unseen. The mind clings to people, memories, and identities to fill the spaces where understanding has not yet reached. It convinces you that without these attachments, you will disappear. Yet, every time you grasp too tightly, you suffocate what could have naturally evolved. The more you try to possess something, the more you push it away. Attachment promises security but delivers suffering. True strength lies in recognizing that you do not need to hold everything to feel whole. Fear feeds the illusion of control. It whispers that if you can just manage, own or predict life, you can avoid pain. But pain does not vanish through control, it only multiplies when you resist it. Every attachment you carry becomes a chain that binds your spirit, keeping you from moving freely through the flow of existence. To release is to dissolve these chains, not by force, but through awareness. The moment you see fear for what it is, a shadow of your own making, it loses its grip. Freedom begins where fear ends. True freedom is not gained by having everything go your way, it is born from standing steady when nothing does. It is not a reward, but a realization. When you stop measuring life by what stays or leaves, wins or losses, you uncover a space within that no external force can touch. That space is not empty, it is full of silence, peace and clarity. It is where your being breathes without the burden of constant wanting. From that stillness, you move not out of need, but from fullness. Letting go of attachment does not mean detaching from love or care. It means removing the demand that love must behave according to your terms. Love is not ownership, it is presence. When you let go, you love more deeply because your heart is no longer trapped in fear of losing. You begin to see that love is not something to keep, but something to become. What once felt like loss now feels like expansion, for your awareness grows beyond boundaries. The courage to release attachment is the courage to face yourself without masks. It is the moment you stop searching for completion in others and find it in your own stillness. When you no longer depend on external things to validate your worth, your soul stands unshaken. Freedom then ceases to be an idea, it becomes your natural state. The fear that once ruled you becomes powerless, and you realize that nothing outside you can complete or break what is already whole within. Love that demands possession is not love, it is desire wrapped in fear. When you try to own someone, you turn a living connection into a cage. True love breathes in freedom, not control. It does not ask the other person to belong, but to simply be. The beauty of love lies in its ability to exist without grasping, to give without expecting, and to care without demanding. Possession tries to hold what cannot be held, and in doing so, it destroys the very essence it wishes to protect. When you release the urge to own, love becomes vast and unbreakable. You no longer love from need but from understanding. It is no longer about filling emptiness within you, but about sharing the fullness that already exists there. Possessiveness drains love of its purity, turning it into attachment, jealousy and control. But when you let love flow freely, it becomes a force that elevates both souls involved. You begin to see love not as a bond, but as a space where growth, respect and trust can flourish. Freedom and love are not opposites, they are one and the same. The more you allow freedom in love, the deeper and more genuine it becomes. When two souls come together without trying to bind each other, a sacred harmony arises. Love then becomes fearless because it does not depend on conditions. It does not collapse when tested by distance, time, or change. Freedom gives love its wings. Without it, love suffocates and turns into control disguised as care. To love without possession requires inner strength and clarity. It demands that you rise above your insecurities and the hunger for constant reassurance. It is not about detachment but about balance, holding the heart open without clenching it. Love that allows freedom is not weaker, it is more powerful because it is rooted in truth. It does not cling out of fear of loss, it stays because it chooses to moment after moment. Such love brings peace, not anxiety, because it does not fear endings, it simply honors the presence. When you love without trying to possess, you give the other the highest gift, space to be themselves. In that space, trust grows, respect deepens, and connection matures. The heart learns to love not as ownership but as a continuous flow of giving and receiving. Possession fades, but presence remains. This kind of love is not fragile, it is eternal because it does not rely on conditions. It exists beyond boundaries, beyond time, beyond need. It is love in its purest and most powerful form, free, fearless and whole. Every ending carries within it the seed of a new beginning, yet most people are too attached to the past to see it take root. When something ends, the mind mourns, clings and questions, unable to accept that what once gave joy has completed its purpose. The truth is that every phase of life, every relationship, every dream has a natural lifespan. When it reaches its end, forcing it to stay alive only brings decay. The end is not cruelty, it is life's way of clearing the ground for something new to grow. Only through acceptance can transformation begin. Endings are not punishments, they are transitions written by existence itself. When one chapter closes, it is because the next cannot begin without space. Yet the heart resists this truth, mistaking the familiar for the essential. This resistance becomes suffering. What dies in your life does not take your wholeness with it. It only takes away what has completed its meaning. When you stop fighting the inevitable, you start to see the silent intelligence behind it all. The pain of loss begins to soften into understanding, and the space once filled with grief becomes fertile again. The courage to face an ending without bitterness is the mark of a conscious mind. To stand before loss and still trust that something greater awaits requires depth, not denial. When you embrace the ending as part of the rhythm of life, you move beyond fear. The same force that ended what was will also give birth to what will be. Every closing door hides the doorway to another reality, but only the eyes that no longer look backward can see it. The end of one thing is never the end of you. It is merely the shedding of an old skin that no longer fits your growth. Growth always demands release. You cannot carry the past into the future and expect transformation to unfold. The ashes of what ended must return to the earth before the next seed can sprout. This is the natural law of renewal. The mind wants continuity, but the soul seeks evolution. Every ending tests your trust in life's unfolding. It asks you to surrender control and allow the unseen to shape what comes next. The deeper your trust, the smoother your transition from loss to awakening. When endings arrive, meet them with stillness instead of resistance. See them not as destruction but as preparation. The soil of your being is being turned so something stronger, wiser and more aligned can emerge. Life does not take away to harm, it takes away to refine. The new beginning is already waiting within the silence of the ending. When you no longer cling to what has gone, you can finally witness the quiet miracle of what is being born. When you stop fighting against change, you begin to see that life was never meant to stay still. Everything that exists is in motion, seasons shift, emotions rise and fall, people grow and move on. Resistance to this flow creates friction in the mind. and that friction becomes suffering. Change is not the enemy, your refusal to accept it is. The more you try to control what must transform, the further you drift from peace. Surrendering to change does not mean giving up, it means allowing life to breathe through you instead of choking it with fear. Peace is not something you achieve through effort, it is what remains when effort stops. It is the quiet that exists beneath the noise of resistance. When the mind stops arguing with reality, an inner stillness awakens. That stillness has always been there, waiting behind the storms of your thoughts. You cannot create peace, you can only uncover it by releasing the need to make life fit your expectations. The moment you stop fighting what is, everything becomes lighter, clearer and easier to bear. Acceptance is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength. It takes power to look at what you cannot change and still remain centered. Most people confuse peace with passivity, but true peace comes from deep understanding, not avoidance. It is the strength to stand firm in chaos and still feel untouched within. When you stop resisting change, the outer world may remain unpredictable, but your inner world becomes unshakable. The storm may rage, yet the center of your being stays calm. The mind thrives on control and certainty, but the essence of life is movement and mystery. The more you cling to control, the more you lose harmony with existence. When you let life unfold without forcing it, you begin to experience a natural rhythm that was always guiding you. Each change, even the painful ones, carries wisdom and purpose. What you once feared begins to reveal its deeper meaning. In acceptance, you find not defeat but liberation, the freedom to move with life instead of against it. Peace is the memory of your true nature, not something that needs to be learned. It returns the moment you stop running resisting or demanding. Change will continue to come, but when you meet it with openness, it no longer disturbs you. You realize that peace has nothing to do with what happens outside and everything to do with how deeply you trust the flow within. Life moves endlessly, and when you flow with it, peace becomes your constant companion, silent, steady and eternal. The more you cling to control, the further you drift from your inner balance. The desire to control everything around you comes from fear. Fear of uncertainty, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. The mind believes that by controlling situations, people and outcomes, it can secure peace. But peace never comes through domination, it comes through understanding. When you try to force life into your design, you disconnect from the natural flow that holds everything together. Control is an illusion that drains your strength and blinds you to the deeper intelligence that guides all things. Life was never meant to be predictable. The more you try to shape it according to your will, the more resistance you create. True balance does not come from making everything bend to your expectations, it comes from moving in harmony with what is. When you let go of control, you begin to see how effortlessly life arranges itself. The sun rises, the tides move, the heart beats, all without your interference. The same intelligence that governs the universe is also within you, guiding your every step if you allow it. Surrender is not the act of giving up, it is the act of returning to reality. It is the moment when you stop arguing with what life has already decided and start moving with it instead of against it. To surrender is to accept that you are not the master of every outcome, and that acceptance brings clarity. It removes the fog of worry and reveals a deeper strength that control can never provide. In surrender, you do not lose power, you gain alignment with a force far greater than your individual will. When you stop controlling, you begin to listen. You notice the rhythm in every experience, the pattern hidden within chaos. You see that what seems like disorder is often a reordering, a cleansing of what no longer serves your growth. Surrender sharpens your awareness because you are no longer consumed by fear. You begin to respond instead of react, to flow instead of resist. This state of balance cannot be achieved through effort. It arises naturally when control dissolves. To live in alignment with truth is to live without the need to dominate it. Life does not demand control, it asks for trust. The deeper your trust, the stronger your balance becomes. You move with calm even when uncertainty surrounds you because you no longer mistake control for safety. In surrender, you discover peace that no external circumstance can shake. You return to the center of your being where balance is not achieved. It simply exists, silent and unwavering, beyond all need to control. Detachment is not about turning away from life or shutting your heart to experiences. It is about maintaining clarity and balance no matter the circumstances. When you are detached, you observe without being consumed, you participate without being overwhelmed, and you feel without being lost in emotion. Most people confuse detachment with indifference, thinking that to detach is to stop caring, but true detachment is the opposite. It allows you to care fully without allowing the outcome to define your inner state. It is the strength to remain rooted even when storms rage around you. Detachment comes from understanding the impermanent nature of everything. People, possessions, emotions, and situations are constantly changing. When you try to hold them tightly, you suffer every shift, every loss, every disappointment. By learning to detach, you align yourself with the natural flow of life. You witness change without panic, you experience joy without clinging, and you endure pain without breaking. Detachment is the skill of engaging with life while remaining unshaken by its inevitable ups and downs. Being detached does not mean you withdraw from love, responsibility, or ambition. It means you perform your role fully without letting it define your identity or trap your spirit. A detached person loves without possession, acts without expectation, and works without obsession. The energy that is often wasted in fear, need, and resistance is instead directed toward clarity, creativity, and understanding. Detachment frees the mind from being a servant to every passing thought and emotion, allowing it to see reality as it truly is. Detachment sharpens awareness because it removes the distortion of attachment. When you are not bound by desire, fear, or the compulsion to control, your perception becomes clear. You see situations and people as they are, not as you wish them to be. This clarity allows for wiser choices, deeper compassion, and more effective action. Detachment does not separate you from life, it places you at the center of it, fully present and fully awake, without being tossed by every wave. Living with detachment is living with inner freedom. It is the capacity to remain steady amidst chaos, to find peace amidst conflict, and to feel presence without needing to possess. Detachment is the balance between engagement and surrender, between caring and letting go. It is the realization that while the world changes, your inner essence remains untouched. By mastering detachment, you discover a strength that cannot be shaken, a calm that cannot be disturbed, and a freedom that cannot be taken. Letting go is not a surrender to emptiness, but a reclaiming of your own power. When you release what you thought defined you, you uncover the parts of yourself that were always whole, always present, and always free. The attachments you carry, whether to people, outcomes, or ideas, mask the essence of who you truly are. Each grip you loosen reveals the space within you that has never been shaken, a space untouched by fear, regret, or expectation. Letting go allows you to return to that center where your strength and clarity reside beyond all circumstance. The act of letting go is an exercise in courage. It asks you to face discomfort, uncertainty, and loss without collapsing into old patterns of clinging. Most suffering comes not from what is lost, but from the resistance to it. By releasing your hold, you confront the illusion that life must bend to your will to feel safe. In truth, your safety, your completeness, and your joy are never dependent on anything outside of you. Letting go is the acknowledgement that your inner being is the constant, while everything else is temporary and mutable. Letting go is also an act of clarity. When you release what no longer serves your growth, your perception sharpens. The distractions, noise, and distortions caused by attachment fade, and you see life and yourself more clearly. Decisions become less reactive and more deliberate. Emotions flow without hijacking your judgment, and relationships are no longer traps but mirrors for your own awareness. By letting go, you align with the natural order of life rather than resisting it, and in that alignment, you discover the power to act without compulsion and to feel without fear. Self-discovery is the true reward of letting go. Every release strips away what is false, what is imposed, and what is unnecessary, leaving only the essence of your being. You find that the part of you that observes, witnesses, and remains grounded through all experiences was never lost, never broken, and never afraid. This realization shifts your entire relationship with life. You no longer chase, control, or demand. You move with it, guided by an inner steadiness that cannot be shaken by circumstance or expectation. Letting go transforms loss into freedom and fear into awareness. What you thought you could not survive without becomes a teacher, revealing the resilience and wholeness that were always within you. In every ending, every release and every surrender, you meet yourself anew, more present, more alive, and more unshakably centered. Letting go is not about giving up, it is about returning to the unbroken, fearless, and infinite space within, where your true self has always resided.